Yep. That's what I want to know. Who did Bill Cosby piss off? Let me tell you something. It's so much in my mind that I want to get out that I just don't know where to begin. But there's something really strange. Like, I remember Al Sharpton at Michael Jackson's funeral, and he looked at Michael's children, said, "Wasn't nothing strange about your daddy. What was strange was the stuff going on around him." If y'all don't see this strange, I'm trying so hard not to cuss. If you don't see the strangeness that's been swirling around Bill Cosby, you are ignorant and blind and dumb. So he has another lawsuit coming out from a white woman, another one from 1969. Sexual assault, rape, whatever, I don't know the details. But you have to think about the year 1969. White woman raped by a black man. She says nothing in 1969, 1970, 71, 72, 73, 74, 75. It is 2023. Now you see these viral videos of how these Karens behave. We just saw one last week, something over a bike in New York. You saw this white woman crying tears and carrying on. And this is over a bike in 2023. Understand how white women would perform in 1969 if they was raped by a black man. Understand that. That's a year after Martin Luther King was assassinated. If you were born in the 80s, the 90s, and hell, even the late 70s, I think that generation just doesn't get it. And I understand why things had changed. You know, if you were born in the late 70s, so on and so forth, you grew up watching a multitude of black people on television. But I remember growing up when a lot of people weren't on when a lot of black people weren't on television. I mean, how, and you can't be mad at them. They're just a product of their environment, which is a good thing to a certain extent. I'm glad people were born in the 80s and 90s and 2000s didn't have to experience the things that people had experienced, that we had experienced concerning racism. But understand, my goodness, he must have pissed somebody off. as well as Michael. Michael pissed somebody off. And whoever they pissed off is definitely a sociopath. Because only sociopaths are highly manipulative and will go out of their way and will stop at nothing to destroy your life. And at this point, it seems like it's a game. They want to see this man broke. With all his millions on top of millions on top of millions, it is a game to some freaking sociopath to see if they can see the day where Bill Cosby is penniless. But that's a whole nother video, if you ask me. I'm just saying, please, don't believe the hype. I'll never believe any white woman that got raped by a black man in the 60s, in the 50s, in the 30s, in the 40s, in the 70s. I'll never believe them. That will come out 50, 60 years later. When knowing if he had raped you in 1969, you, white woman, had the power to have him hung from a tree. In 1969, when Don Lemon was parading all those white women night after night after night, it went on for months. There was 1962 bitches, 1963 bitches, 1964. I never believed none of those bitches. And they had the nerve to say, get a load of this. I think it was a 1963 bitch. Oh, she had the nerve to say that she didn't tell anybody because Bill Cosby was very powerful. Shut the fucking door. Bill Cosby was powerful in 1963. Powerful. And you know she's lying because Bill Cosby was, if you want to call it, him being powerful, which he was. Yeah, he got power. But that didn't happen until the 80s. He didn't have no damn power in 1963. Hell no. He wasn't uber rich in 1963. Now, if she want to say he did this to her in the 80s or the 90s and said she was afraid to say something because he was powerful, yeah, I can probably not necessarily believe that he raped her, but yeah, he was powerful. He's still powerful. But not in 1963. Go back. Man, in 1963, they was hosing us down with hoses and sicking dogs on us. And you mean to tell me during those days, a black man can rape a white woman and she's too afraid to tell anybody? Y'all have got to understand. Don't believe the hype. Bill Cosby pissed somebody off. And I don't think it was a sort of thing where he said, you know what? I'm going to piss somebody off. And he pissed somebody off. No, I just, man, he pissed somebody off. They are out to destroy him to know not one. To know not one. So please, I wish there was something that I can do or we all can do collectively. And this law that they have is very, very dangerous. What's it called? The look back law? Somebody can come 60 years later and say that I'm talking to you who's listening, black man, and come back 10, 15 years and say you raped them. What kind of law is that? He can have 1,000 white women parade for lawsuits against him, saying he raped them all. That's a very dangerous law. And I think it was designed for certain men. Look, I'm not saying Bill Cosby didn't cheat on his wife. I don't know them. I can assume he did. He was hanging out with Hugh Hefner. You can't hang out with nobody like Hugh Hefner and not screw around on your wife. That's what I know for a fact. You cannot hang out at the Playboy Mansion, being a married man, and not have strayed. So, Bill Cosby is a man. A man's going to do what a man's going to do. One woman is never enough for the majority of the men out here in these streets. But there's a difference between straying and R-wording somebody. Could he have done it to 1, 2, or 3 women? It's possible. But I don't believe all those women. And again, I don't believe no woman before the 80s. No white woman anyway. But there's somebody pulling strings who is just as powerful as Bill Cosby, or perhaps even more powerful. And they are behind the scenes pulling strings and making stuff happen because it seems like it's a game to somebody. But I pray there's a special place down below for every lying individual. And maybe some are not lying. And that's okay. But there's a whole lot more liars in Bill Cosby's situation than there are truth tellers. And I hope every liar in that situation has their day in the lake of fire. Look, maybe he didn't piss anybody off. Sometimes people are just jealous of you and want to destroy you. A lot of times it don't take nothing to make somebody want to destroy you. But yeah, let's not throw Bill Cosby away. He's done too much. Everybody is flawed. I ain't saying he's an angel or a perfect man, but I don't believe all of this going on. I don't believe it. I'll never believe it in a million years. They thought they had him. Well, they knew they never had him in terms of prison. They knew that case was BS. They just played the game. Like, yeah, we'll bring some charges on him and this, that, and the other. We know what the agreement was when he provided a deposition. But we still can get him locked up for a few years until it gets all untangled. And that's what happened. They knew he wasn't going to do all that time. They knew he would be released, but they wanted him to sit in jail as long as they could have him there. Man, I don't see them doing this to Harvey Weinstein. They didn't do nothing like this to Jeffrey Epstein. They didn't. They gave him a slap on the wrist a decade or so ago for him being involved with child prostitution. Now, R. Kelly, that's a different story. But I wish there was something that I could do. If I knew what I could do, I would do it. They're not lynching powerful or influential black men by hanging them on the tree anymore. They lynching them in a different way, right in front of our eyes. And unfortunately, some of us are standing around applauding, not even realizing that he's being lynched. Don't believe everything you read and hear. Read it, listen to it, make sense out of it. Too much ain't making sense to me. They're literally lynching this man in a whole different way. They lynched Michael Jackson. Lynched him. The FBI followed Michael Jackson around for 10 years, investigated him surreptitiously for 10 years, and came up with nothing. The FBI can find a fart in the wind if they want to. That right there should tell you something. Well, that's my rant for today. I hope Bill Cosby is documenting some stuff and is writing a book, and I pray that he tells us what is going on. By the time he puts the book out, if he does, it'll be, him telling us what happened. Too many of us have turned our back on that man. And a lot of times it's for personal reasons. They misunderstood him. They misconstrued statements he's made. They say he's, I don't know, what was the word? Maybe it arrogant or rude or whatever. I just see him up in age. You know how we get when we become elderly. That's why I like hanging out with old people. They say what is on their mind and don't care nothing about your feelings. And they're that way because they feel like they can't be that way. I appreciate it, actually. But sometimes some people have deliberately misconstrued his statements, deliberately misconstrued it. They understood what he was saying and what he meant. But when people got it out for you, they'll deliberately misconstrue your actions, your thoughts, your statements, your behaviors. I guess the only thing I can do is just pray for that man. But Bill Cosby, that's a strong man. When it's all said and done, even if they strip him of every penny, every dime that he has, he's still going to be standing strong. And there's no doubt in my mind about that.